Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan. Whitney is off. We begin tonight with the latest on a deadly crash just south of Colville. More than 7 hours later, Highway 395 remains shut down. Troopers with Washington State Patrol say a northbound car with 3 people inside veered across the center line, crashing into a car traveling south. Authorities say 81-year-old Shirley Ashbaugh was killed in that crash, and all 3 passengers in the other car are at a hospital tonight. 2 adults have non-life-threatening injuries, and a 2-year-old girl who was in the car as well was uninjured. Washington State Police say drugs and alcohol were not factors. As for that highway closure, still no word on when 395 will reopen. We will keep you posted just as soon as we find out. The Bureau of Land Management continues to look for ways to slow down wildfires, and now they want to build more fuel breaks. It's essentially a corridor or a strip of ground that slows down a wildfire. Fuel breaks also make it safer and easier for firefighters to control a wildfire.
We don't expect a fuel break will always stop a fire. We do expect that a fuel break will slow down a fire, and that buys time for firefighters to get the right crews and the right equipment to the right place and start doing something about the fire. Doing nothing is not an option. We feel as land managers who are stewards of public land, this is a step we need to take.
BLM's proposal includes building fuel breaks in Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and 3 other states. While the proposal includes more than 200 million acres of land at risk of wildfires, leaders with BLM say they would strategically place fuel breaks to optimize the system. If all goes as planned, they could start building fuel breaks by this fall. The Public Health Department of Seattle and King County reports 2 new confirmed cases of measles. A teenager visited the Auburn Community Center while infected Saturday, July 6th from 2 to 11 p.m. That teen did not know they were carrying measles at the time. The second case involves a baby who did not visit any public places while sick. 12 people have been diagnosed with measles in King, Pierce, and Snohomish County since the start of May. In other news tonight, in less than a month, voters in Spokane will cast their ballots for candidates running for city council and mayor. And as the August primary approaches, you have no doubt seen the campaign yard signs and billboards across town. KREM 2's Casey Decker joins us live in the studio tonight with a look at how much each candidate is spending and on what. Casey?
Yeah, Mark, by the start of June, more than $150,000 had already been spent on just 2 races, mayor and council president. We'll be getting to new numbers through the start of this month in a couple weeks, but even in those early weeks of this campaign, there was a lot of money flying around.
The numbers tell the story. Nadine Woodward and Ben Stuckert are far outspending the other candidates for city office in Spokane. That's obvious when you look at this graph. I've categorized spending into staff, events, signs, production like videos, photos, and websites, campaign literature, fees, supplies, and data management. What's clear, Stuckert and Woodward are spending a lot of money on staff. Woodward is also spending a ton on fundraising events. And Sean Poole stands out on signs, spending more on those than any other candidate. Let's take a closer look. Woodward has spent just over $15K on staff and on events, and just over $5K on signs, production, and campaign lit. A couple thousand each on fees and supplies. Stuckert stands out in 2 areas. He's spending nearly $30,000 on staffing and consultants. He's also spending a lot on data management, a common campaign tool used to keep track of potential voters, for instance. He's the only mayoral candidate to spend in this area. Production's big for Stuckert too, most of that in the digital arena. Nearly half of Sean Poole's money is going to signs. He's actually spending more in that category than any other mayoral candidate, despite having just a fraction of the funding. Jonathan Bingle hasn't been spending much, a few hundred across the board. He's got about $1,000 for literature and signs each, but his number 1 expense is actually still his filing fee. Kelly Cruz hadn't reported any spending by the start of June. Okay, let's take a quick glance now at the race for council president. Far less money here, but still a substantial amount. You can see Breanne Beggs is spending by far the most, a lot on staff, events, and quite a bit on data management too. Cindy Wendell has the next most spent, mostly on staff and lit. Phil Tyler has spent about the same, but his money is going almost exclusively to campaign events. Mike Fagan had barely spent it all by June, the bulk of his money going to his filing fee. Also remember, in addition to there being much more spending since these reports were published, the amount that's spent is only a portion of the amount that's been raised. For KREM 2 News, I'm Casey Decker.
They have her with maximum security. She barely turned 18 years old. She just turned 18.
Well, that is the mother of Caitlin Haskins, the 18-year-old accused of hitting another teen with a baseball bat in Sandpoint. She was in court today charged with felony aggravated battery. The victim is named Haley, and her mother says her injuries were so bad she had to get reconstructive surgery. The victim told police that Haskins and another teen followed her to City Beach in Sandpoint, and according to court documents, that's where the duo punched and hit the victim in the head with a baseball bat.
And it was 2-on-1, and one of them had a baseball bat and hit her in the head twice. Haley had been getting threatening text messages over the course of a few days.
That's the victim's mom. She says multiple witnesses saw Haskins use the bat, something Haskins' family denies. They say she's being falsely accused and that the other teen who beat up the victim is to blame. Today, a judge set Haskins' bail at $50,000. To some national news now, the storm that could become the year's first hurricane to hit the U.S. appears to be bearing down on the Gulf Coast. Hurricane watchers are posted along the southern coast of Louisiana, but the storm threat stretches from Texas to Florida. More than half a foot of rain fell in Louisiana today, and there could be much more to come. Morning storms unleashed up to 8 inches of rain within 3 hours over parts of New Orleans, flooding neighborhoods as well as streets and businesses along the historic French Quarter. Well, it is a much different story here in the Inland Northwest. Some of us saw light showers today, but things are warming up from here on out. Let's get straight to meteorologist Michelle Boss for more on that. Michelle.
Yep, we only saw a trace of rainfall today, so that means less than 1/100 of an inch at the airport. Got a few other reports from 2 to 3/100 of an inch from places like Wenatchee and Moses Lake, but not a whole lot of rain seen across the Inland Northwest today. We are seeing a few additional showers pop up this late evening, mainly across far southeastern Washington, just to the west of Pomeroy. Getting a little shower developing there that will continue to move to the northeast and could impact areas just north of the Moscow and Pullman areas. But overcast skies expected through the overnight hours, so still be pretty mild. Temperatures didn't even drop below the mid-60s this morning, and we should only drop down to around 60 degrees overnight. So another mild night and early morning tomorrow. 71 currently in Spokane, 68 in Coeur d'Alene, still in the upper 80s in Lewiston. Here's a look at the next 12 hours. We are looking at mostly cloudy skies through the night. Again, very mild temperatures. We will see a little bit more sunshine tomorrow afternoon. That's going to allow temperatures to warm up back into the lower 80s tomorrow. Decreasing clouds, maybe a little breezy for the afternoon, and then even warmer for Friday and Saturday. With that warming trend, highs could approach 90 degrees by Saturday.
Looking pretty good. Thank you, Michelle. If you have ever struggled to find parking in downtown Spokane, well, there's an app for that. Driveways is like Airbnb for your driveway. Hosts or homeowners can decide when their driveway is open and charge drivers an hourly fee to park there. So here's how it works. If you'd like to host a parking space, the app walks you through a few steps to register, select that type of parking, how many spaces, and the location. Hosts can decide what days and time the space is available and set an hourly rate that's within a certain price range. All renters need to do is create an account by registering their vehicle. Right now, the Driveways app is getting a lot of use in California. There aren't any users in Spokane yet, but residents we spoke with today say they are certainly open to that idea.